and thank you so much for being with us on this Wednesday, August 13th. I'm meteorologist Leah Pizzetti, and this is Weather Out West, the hour-long show where we showcase what's happening weather-wise across the western United States. You'll find forecasts from our meteorologists in the Pacific Northwest to the Mountain West and California to Arizona in the Southwest. We start today in Arizona, where extreme heat remains the focus. Meteorologist Ginger Jeffries is in Arizona with the heat alerts and concerns about blowing dust.
I'm meteorologist Ginger Jeffries with a look at your weather out west across the very busy state of Arizona. We are dealing with summer extremes this week. Started the work week with an extreme heat warning that is still in play today. That's why it's a weather impact alert day. But then we're going to trade that out and see some pretty hefty monsoons moving on through. Now, bulk of this action is going to be in the higher elevations today. We're already going to start seeing some of that firing, and as a result, we've got a blowing dust warning for areas in the southeast quadrant simply because of the outflow, which could get up to about 45 miles an hour. That means as those storms pass on through, they kick up wind. That wind comes down, and yeah, that's how we get those walls of dirt. So I'll talk more about that in just a minute. Right now, let's take a look at temperatures. We are coming down, but we're still above the normal range. Highs today should be at about 110 in Phoenix. Yesterday, we peaked at 112. So, okay, it's still well above the normal range, but we're not going to break any records. And again, the trend of the forecast shows numbers will begin to shave down. Meantime, Havasu still going to see the one teens. I've got 95 in Sedona, 86 in Flagstaff, and quite a bit of windy, kind of thunderous weather going to be settling in for the higher terrains. But this extreme heat warning for all the areas you see here in purple, stretching from Vegas into Yuma, and then also obviously including Maricopa County here in Phoenix. This is calling for temperatures between 108 to 113. Those one teens, those are to the west of the metro, but as mentioned, Phoenix, we're going to be getting up to 110 today. Meantime, for the areas you see in orange, we've got this blowing dust advisory. This is for this evening through about 11 o'clock. Now, the prime time for concern will be 5 to 9. I'm talking about hot and hazy conditions, these outflows 40 to 45 miles an hour. And because of that, visibility, well, first of all, it just pops up out of nowhere. So be ready for that. But visibility could be reduced down to a quarter, possibly a mile. So especially if you have respiratory issues, avoid the outdoors. Let's check in on those winds and the timing of it. As you can see today, we're going to start to see these winds generating by about, I'd say 4 to 6. That's when we're looking for wind speeds up to about 25-30 miles an hour. Even here in the metro, I'm looking for winds in the double digits. We'll get sustained winds at 6 miles an hour, but winds are going to get up to about 20 miles an hour as these storms start to press on through. You know, they need that warm element to get that convection. So we've got 5s and 4s. We are upping the ante. We are looking for numerous storms today in the mountains. Isolated chance of showers for the lower desert, and of course, localized blowing dust is a major concern. As I track this for you, Futurecast shows by about 4 o'clock, and again, widely scattered again, but they're starting to collect a little bit more. We're seeing some brighter banding, the deeper greens indicating the presence of heavier rainfall and measurable rainfall. As we get into Thursday, more widespread, getting a little closer to the Phoenix. It does look to be concentrated on the central to east part of the state. And then as we move into Friday, that's when we're going to see the most widespread and deepest banding, indicating the best opportunity for some actual showers in the metro. This will start developing after about the 3 o'clock hour, and then it does look to be lifting after about, I'd say, 10 o'clock in the evening. So temperature-wise, well, this is the way it's breaking down. Numbers are coming down. We are seeing the mid-80s today in Flagstaff, but upper 70s by the weekend. And again, healthy opportunities for some showers. And then for the valley today, weather impact alert courtesy of the extreme heat. Slight chance at showers developing tonight, but our best bet for rain will be on Friday for the Phoenix area.
Thank you, Ginger. Next, we will head to Colorado, where record-breaking heat is on the horizon. And as our meteorologists on the ground there show us, an incoming disturbance is increasing the threat of fire.
Hello from Denver, Colorado. I'm 9 News Weather Impact meteorologist Kathy Sabin on a hot summer day. It's all about high pressure for Colorado, the southwest and west. That means the storm track is north of us, and we've got this layer of warm, heavy air. It's just sinking right on down to the surface, and that means temperatures are headed for record territory today. Hard to get any clouds and any thunder showers to cool us off today. All of the heavy weather is off to the south and east of us, and these thunderstorms from New Orleans through St. Louis into Chicago and the Northeast will create airport delays. So heavy weather is off across the East Coast, while here in Colorado it's just hot. It's dry with record highs possible today and tomorrow. We'll see some good rain outside of Houston into Atlanta and Washington both today and tomorrow. Severe weather threat looks to be pretty small, with the exception of a weak front that's going to move into Rapid City and Bismarck. So this is the area that could be looking at maybe some hail from thunderstorms and damaging wind. Notice on Futurecast we start with sunshine, go partly sunny, and then in the afternoon that northwest flow aloft brings in just a tiny bit of moisture. The problem is we're not going to get rain from those clouds. We'll get wind and lightning, which creates critical fire weather in the mountains, where a red flag warning is out today and a fire weather watch will go out tomorrow. And this continues for the western slope, dealing with unhealthy air and an air quality alert due to the wildfire smoke, which continues ebbing and flowing across western Colorado, the Continental Divide, even Denver getting back in on the action with that dense smoke, haze, and bad air again. We'll start in the 60s this morning and watch for temperatures to soar to the upper 90s. My forecast high is 97. The record today is 99. Record tomorrow is 100. We come close to that. And then a little bit of a shift, a little bit of moisture coming in, 20 to 25% chance of an afternoon shower Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And the temperatures trending upper 80s and low 90s for the weekend and start of next week.
The Farmer's Almanac is calling for a very cold and snowy winter in Colorado for this upcoming winter. And I've got our Farmer's Almanacologist, Corey Reppenhagen, here as well to break this down for you. But Corey, you know the Farmer's Almanac people. You've interviewed them several times. I'm going to go through the methodology of them here, but I want your insight about that forecast for a very cold and snowy winter. What do you think about that, Corey?
Well, I mean, you think about the Farmer's Almanac and their climate predictions. They in the winters they predict that it's going to be cold, right? So that's not too difficult, right?
It's going to be cold in the winter?
Yeah, and in the summers they say it's going to be warm.
Whoa.
Right? And so the perception from the public is that's very accurate, right? Because when the winter comes, you're feeling cold, right? So, and then you look at our forecast where we say it's going to be above average temperatures for the winter. And so above average temperature for the winter is 33 degrees. So they're thinking we're predicting a warm winter when in fact we're predicting a cold winter, but above average temperatures. So the perception from the public, very cold and snowy, I'm telling you, that's going to happen.
Yeah, it will snow. You said it, Corey, you said it. So it's going to be cold and it's going to snow in Colorado this winter? No way.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, yeah, so the Farmer's Almanac, they don't really tell us about their formula too much, but it has a lot to do with the lunar cycle, the planetary alignment. So that's stuff I don't buy into too much, but I really do like some of what the Farmer's Almanac does, because the predictions that they make are 2 years in advance. So they don't get to utilize things like the El Nino cycle, which is very localized and it happens very quickly. So when they made this forecast 2 years ago, just released it today, and there's some interesting things about where they get knocked on their percentages. So you're looking at, I think you said 52% accurate.
Yeah.
That's not their climate prediction. So when it says 52% accurate, that they do these weekly predictions. So 2 years from now, they predict that if you're going to have a wedding in October, you pick the week. That's where it struggles. So that's where they start to lose. That's where they get down to this 52% accurate. Nobody does that though. We're not going to make a prediction in October of 2027 what the weather's going to be like on that day. So it's interesting what they do. I just love the Farmer's Almanac because if you look at it, they have 152 pages of really good information and 4 pages of weather. Weather's not what they do. So the Farmer's Almanac, it's really, it's all the other information that I love about the Farmer's Almanac.
Other creatures that can tell you it's going to be cold and snowy in Colorado this winter: Miles the mascot, as well as Penny the corgi. They will also inform you that it will be cold and snowy in Colorado this winter. So I think the point is, take the Farmer's Almanac with a grain of salt, but yes, they are predicting a very cold and snowy winter, whatever that means.
All right, well, still ahead, we will head to the Northwest, where heat is backing off, but communities to the north are still dealing with smoke from existing fires and the threat of new fires starting. Those forecasts in the Northwest after the break. Welcome back. Let's now check in on our forecast in the Northwest. Eastern Washington already has haze in the sky from a nearby fire burning, and a red flag warning is now in place because of the risk for new fires to start and spread. Meteorologist Thomas Patrick is in Spokane with the forecast for Eastern Washington.
I'm meteorologist Thomas Patrick in Spokane, Washington. Today, an important weather day for Eastern Washington as the fire danger conditions have reached critical levels for this Wednesday. And that's where we start. Red flag warnings in effect from noon until 9 p.m. today for all of central and eastern Washington. Red flag warnings meaning critical levels of fire danger conditions. That means any new or active wildfires would start to burn more aggressively or out of control in the weather environment that is active today. All this is typically correlated to how strong the wind speeds will be, and that's going to be up to 35 miles per hour, strongest over central Washington, and about 30-mile-per-hour wind speeds likely for the Spokane area today. So it is our third straight day of a weather impact alert day for Spokane. The first 2 days this week, more so just for the high heat at about 95 to 100 degrees. And while still hot today, it's the wind that takes it to a new or different level of threat. It's the critical fire danger conditions. So we always say to exercise caution in a day like today. What does that mean? It means do anything you can to prevent and mitigate the fire danger yourself if you live in this area. That means, number one, follow the burn bans at the local and state level. That means no debris burns or campfires or bonfires on a day like today. Just far too windy for those actions. But also make sure to not throw out cigarette butts into the vegetation. Don't park your car on dry grass. Make sure that those tow chains are well secured to the back of your car and not dragging alongside of the road. Those things could start and be the spark for new wildfires. So anything you can do, again, to mitigate and prevent that does us very, very well. So that's the key messaging when it comes to preventing fires on a critical day like today. But there are fires that are active across the Pacific Northwest. Looks like the biggest one is the Bear Gulch fire. And while that's out in the Olympics, the wildfire smoke coming off of that has already pushed into eastern Washington and northern Idaho as of this Wednesday morning, and it has been noticeable, especially around 7 and 8 a.m. A picture I took from myself from the Creme 2 studios in Spokane showing that very hazy and smoky sunshine outside in the eastern skies here. So the skies could stay a bit smoky just because of that one singular fire out towards our west. And you'll notice that the wind speeds are from the west, and it would trail a lot of that smoke in our direction. So again, it's the Bear Gulch fire in the Olympics. There's also another fairly large fire in Vancouver Isle called the Mount Underwood fire, that causing some hazy conditions even through northern Washington, because again, those straight westerly winds are going to carry that smoke eastward. So the wind speeds are up to 35 miles per hour today. After about 9 o'clock tonight, they'll ease, and again, the red flag warning will be allowed to expire at that time. All this is being caused by a cold front that's just sliding and slicing through the region, increasing the wind speeds a bit for today. Unfortunately, no rainfall for the inland Northwest. The secondary storm system for Friday and Saturday going to feature a lot more of a wet environment. Just a matter of how much rain is Spokane going to get versus, say, somewhere like Seattle, because Seattle is certainly going to get a lot more rainfall from this than we will because of a strong rain shadow effect. The Cascades really wringing out a lot of that moisture before it arrives or crosses the mountains themselves. I still have some solid rain chances for Friday night and Saturday morning, and cooler weather to go along with it as well. But the priority is today. Again, fire mitigation and prevention is the name of the game in the day today with the hot, dry, and windy weather environment.
Thank you, Thomas. I know we will be hoping for that rain. It goes a long way this time of the year. Nearby, the heat in Boise is backing off, and relief in the form of rain is also on the horizon there. Hector Mendoza has the forecast for Idaho.
Well, we saw some meteor showers that peaked yesterday into the late hours and very early morning hours of today. And we got a picture, although it was kind of difficult to see in this picture, but you could see some of those showers coming along. As you can see, a streak there, and then one very faint one around this area here. But it was a beautiful night sky for those folks that had a chance to experience and get to see that. This was taken at around 3:20 this morning. So again, you had to be there between, I think it was 2 a.m. and 4 o'clock in the morning. And Hannah is the one that posted this picture on our Idaho Weather Watchers Facebook page, so I appreciate that. But as we start to look back at yesterday, we see some of those temperatures. We hit triple digits yesterday for the first time since July 14th. So again, we did see some of those temperatures pass that century mark in Boise, in Mountain Home, and in Caldwell, including Ontario as well, hitting 101. Nampa hitting right at that triple digit temperature. We saw temperatures into the mid 90s for the Magic Valley and into those 90s there for portions of the mountains. So with that 102 that we saw yesterday, we have added on an extra day. And so now we have a total of 5 total days at or above 100 degrees for this year. And again, the last time we saw that triple digit temperature was back on the 14th. And then most of our triple digit temperatures have come along at least the first 2 weeks of July. But we are going to see that some spots will continue to see triple digit temperatures today, but we are expecting to dial it back just a little bit, but still hot here in the Boise area, hitting at 99 degrees and very similar out in Nampa, expecting Ontario and Mountain Home to surpass that century mark for today, sticking around the mid 90s for the Magic Valley and getting well into the 80s out into the mountains. So again, another day where it's going to be quite hard to escape some of that heat depending on where you're going. So we are in between these two systems as we see this high pressure system bringing us some of those warm temperatures, and another system here coming in from Canada that's going to drop down and bring us in some moisture, as we are seeing some of that. And very early on, we saw in places like Salmon and Chalice see some of those thunderstorms roll through very early on this morning. But as we look at our future cast and it fast forwards, it's going to be later on into the afternoon where we anticipate some of those isolated showers to come along. Very limited moisture coming along with these systems, but we are going to see that we could see a pocket or two of some dry lightning that comes along, and that is where we're expecting to see some outflow winds get up to about 50 miles per hour where those storms do develop for today. So that's something that we're going to continue to keep an eye on. That makes its way on out very quickly through the night and into early tomorrow, but we're going to see some of those clouds that will continue staying pretty clear here in the Treasure Valley, but we're going to see some of those clouds start to clear out and make their way on through Thursday, seeing a little bit more of that activity coming along through Pocatello and east again into in through Idaho. So that's where we're expecting some of that through today and tomorrow. But as we do have some of the lightning chances, we have some drier conditions, and we also have some winds that could come along along with the heat. We do have fire weather warnings that are in place for places in eastern Idaho, southern Twin Falls County, and then up into the Central Mountains for today, with a pocket there in Ontario that still contains and still sees that heated advisory into place through 9 o'clock tonight. But as we look at the 7-day forecast here through the mountains, those low 80s look to stick around till about Saturday, hitting into the upper 70s Sunday before we rise in some of those temperatures, getting back close to 90 there on Wednesday. We look at temperatures that don't really change into the day-to-day as we look and continue on through Twin Falls into the weekend and early next week, getting back into those low 90s. And that is pretty much where we're going to be sitting at for the next couple of days, as we'll get back to seasonable temperatures Thursday and Friday, and then we stick around those low 90s through the weekend and through the middle of next week with lots of sunshine coming along. So again, temperatures will be a little bit more comfortable than the start of this week.
Thanks, Hector. Up next after the break, we'll take you to the Golden State. Your forecast from northern to southern California. Welcome back to Weather Out West. Now let's get down to San Diego. Doesn't that sound nice? Where in true Southern California fashion, things are looking great. Meteorologist Vanessa Paz is in San Diego with the forecast everybody will be jealous of.
Well, happy Wednesday from San Diego, California. I'm CBS 8 meteorologist Vanessa Paz. Here's what it looked like earlier this morning from one of our coastal cams. We had a lot of people enjoying the surf, paddling out early this morning, but they are experienced, hopefully, because we do have pretty high surf in the coming days, all due to a west swell that's moving in, bringing in pretty big sets, and I'll get to that in just a moment. We still have hot weather blanketing much of the west coast, triggering a slew of warnings and advisories, including red flag warnings, excessive heat warnings, as well as heat advisories. When it comes to San Diego County, we're still under that extreme heat warning impacting the county's eastern half, specifically the desert areas, and that will be in place all the way through tonight. It's been extended several times, but it should come to an end because temperatures are going to take a backseat, cooling down a bit as we get towards the second half of the work week. Here's what we have on tap for Wednesday versus where we should be for this time of the year. It is going to be nearly picture perfect when we talk about the coast and inland spots across San Diego County. In fact, daytime highs are shaping up to be nice in the 70s. We are tracking some 80s out there, but those daytime highs are going to be pushing close to where we should be for this time of year. Meanwhile, the mountains and deserts are still going to be tracking pretty warm, above normal, but as we shape up closer to the end of the week, we'll start to see those temperatures simmer down a bit. Here's what I have on tap for Thursday's highs across San Diego County. We are shaping up to see 70s for the coastal areas. Some clouds will be stubborn to clear as that onshore flow starts to strengthen, and the coming days will be in the mid 80s for the inland valleys, low 90s in the mountains, and close to 110 tomorrow in our desert. So we'll stay out of that 111, 115 range, and we'll finally get back to 109, 108 as we progress through the second half of the work week. The reason why we're expecting those changes, that ridge of high pressure is going to shimmy out of the way, allowing for a trough brewing in the Pacific Northwest to dive a little south. That will usher in some cooler air and also increase our onshore flow. And onshore flow typically means that we are expecting those high winds, especially for the county's eastern half. Isolated gusts could get anywhere between 40 to 50 miles per hour. So especially for the counties or for the eastern slopes of the mountains, as well as the desert areas. We're also talking about those clouds rolling in, spilling into the valleys more and more each day, all the way through the weekend. As we fast forward to tonight, you could see those clouds spilling well into the valleys. By Thursday morning, they'll clear, being a little more stubborn to clear, especially for the immediate coast. All right, I talked about high surf. Here's a recap of that. The sets will be anywhere between 3 to 5 feet, but we could get isolated sets up to 6 feet at times. Water temperature is not too bad in the high 60s to low 70s. Rip current risk remains at a high level. So if, again, you know anyone visiting San Diego today or even tomorrow, I'd advise that they stay out of the water until those conditions simmer down a bit. Again, the rip current risk at a high level. If you are swimming, you are certainly advised to swim near a lifeguard. Over the next 7 days, here's what's on tap along the coastal areas. We'll be in the mid to low 70s. We'll actually see a small drop in daytime highs by the time we get to Friday into the weekend, and then temperatures will slowly start to rise back up, looking ahead to the middle of next week. The inland areas will be in the mid 80s for your Thursday, and then we'll shave off a few degrees Friday. Friday through the weekend, that's when we'll really start to feel that cooling, especially for interior parts of the county and specifically for the mountains and desert areas. It's still going to be pretty warm Thursday for the mountains and deserts, but notice how we're back into the 80s, dropping about 5 degrees or so by the time we get to Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then we're in the low hundreds for the desert areas until we shoot back up closer to 110 by the middle of next week.
Thank you, Vanessa. Now let's head up to I-5 to Northern California, where relatively cooler weather continues. Meteorologist Monica Woods is in Sacramento with the Northern California forecast.
I'm meteorologist Monica Woods with our Northern and Central California regional forecast. As we start off for the coast, we've got Fogust. A lot of fog in the month of August. Valley, it's going to be slightly cooler. For the foothills, mostly sunny skies. A few storms for this year. Not too scattered throughout the region, but we will see a few isolated pockets of that. And let's get to our forecast, though, with our temperatures. Now, we have been sitting in a rather warm weather pattern for the valley, with temperatures hovering in the 100s. The hottest that we've seen so far this year for Sacramento, 102. Not bad considering what we've seen over the past couple of years. In fact, 2022 really catches the eye. 114 was the hottest temperature that we had, not only for the year, but that was also a record setter for the hottest ever in Sacramento. We also had a 112 that year. So the 102 comparatively not too bad. And we're starting to see temperatures come down somewhat as well. Forecast highs for our Wednesday, we're in the low 90s to right around the upper 80s, especially for Delta influenced areas through the capital region, where we get that flow coming off the Pacific, where highs are sitting in the 60s. We really get a taste and flavor for that coastal cool air. On the east side of the valley and the foothills, it takes a little bit longer for some of that cooler air to make our way into that region. Here's what I'm talking about with the foggy conditions. This is Pacifica. This sits right on the Pacific Ocean in San Mateo County, and you can see it's nearly socked in with fog. Now, inland areas actually start to clear out of some of that fog, but as we look at some of the higher perspectives, you can see that fog just kind of moving along the coast, and then as the sun comes up, kind of dries out the atmosphere. Things actually start to clear out. So we deal with the fog along the coast, some of that moving its way inland, a little bit of that marine stratus pushing its way inland for our Wednesday morning, and then starting to clear. Now, we will see a little bit of thunderstorm activity developing near Yosemite. Most of that is actually going to be east of the crest, so I really wouldn't even be too concerned about widespread thunderstorms for this year or for the time being. It's a pretty quiet pattern, actually. We get a little bit more of that marine stratus moving in for Thursday with that nice onshore flow, and then it takes a little bit of a break. You can see how the wind is going to be shifting to move from a northerly direction. That's going to move some of that fog out as well, dry things out just a little bit, and mean more sunny skies for the coast if you're headed that way. Highs in the meantime for this year in the 80s. Again, we're going to be mostly shower free for the Tahoe Basin. Once we move south of Highway 50, that's where we get into some of the thunderstorm activity, and that will include Yosemite and Sequoia Kings Canyon National Park. As we move down the hill, we're still looking at highs close to 100, mid 90s, near 100, a lot better than the 100s that we were seeing widespread throughout the valley. Along the central coast, we've got highs in the 60s for the most part, although Big Sur starting to warm things up to 83 degrees. For the Monterey Bay Peninsula, though, we'll stay in the 60s. Santa Cruz up to 70. A lot of clouds to start us off in the day with partial afternoon clearing. Again, inland areas still in the 100s, better than the 105 to 110 that we were dealing with over the weekend. Wednesday's highs for the Bay Area, highs will reach the 60s with a lot of cloud cover once we move inland. Again, we see mostly sunny skies, but we get a taste of that Bay Area cool air with highs in the 80s. Along the northwest coast, highs are going to be in the 50s and low 60s, 59 for Fort Bragg. Compare that to Redding. We're at 100 with sunny skies, so certainly cooler along the coast than for inland areas, but better than what we saw over the weekend. Highs are going to be in the upper 80s and 90s throughout much of the Central Valley. And a look at our regional forecast, our highs are in the 80s through Friday for the high country, and then we drop to the 70s. So more cooling coming into play as we head into this weekend. A mix of sun and clouds for the coast with highs in the 60s and lower 70s. Looking at our extended forecast for the next couple of days, we're in the lower 90s, mid 90s on Friday. That's when we pick up those north winds. And then as we head deeper into the outlook, we'll get into some 80s Sunday into Monday, with next week calling for slightly warmer conditions.
Thank you, Monica. Up next after the break, we'll continue our trip up I-5, this time to Portland and Seattle, where impressive summer rain is on the way back in the forecast. Also later on, a San Diego scientist is making a splash in one of Netflix's latest shows. We hear from the shark expert himself as he represents San Diego on the global stage. All of that is still ahead. Welcome back. Western Washington is feeling weather whiplash. Nearly 30 degrees of cooling are expected in the next couple of days with much needed rain. Meteorologist Rich Marriott is in Seattle with the big changes on the way.
Hi, I'm King 5 meteorologist Rich Marriott, and well, it was a hot one yesterday. We got into the low to mid 90s in a lot of places, but overnight last night we saw our ocean air conditioning start to click on, and those onshore winds starting to bring in the deck of marine clouds, which is going to cool things down as we've been promising 10 to 20 degrees from where we were yesterday for our high temperatures. And you can see there in Port Angeles, a pretty solid deck moving through the strait on into the interior. And you are going to see a little bit of marine cloudiness kind of patchy around both in the North Sound and the South Sound today, but still quite a bit of sunshine getting through. But those temperatures will be a lot more livable than what we saw yesterday. Still seeing plenty of sunshine there in Granite Falls. Also seeing that little bit of smoke haze that we have from the wildfires in the neighborhood. We're going to take a closer look at that in just a minute. But the good news is it continues to stay pretty much up off the ground in terms of the concentration of that wildfire smoke. So we're really not seeing anything in terms of impacts of air quality and once you get any distance away from where the wildfires are actually burning. Take a look at the shot there from our Columbia Tower cam. You can see the low clouds kind of drifting in, and that's that marine air working its way inland as the onshore winds begin to pick up. In fact, by the time we get to this afternoon, we might actually see a couple of sprinkles or very light showers in the convergence zone, primarily Seattle northward. So don't be surprised if you see a couple drops. Won't amount to much, but it'll definitely be out there. Out on the coast, pretty solid cloud deck there out at Westport, and they're going to stay socked in through the day today, and they potentially could see a late day shower as well. But again, quantities out of this very, very weak, just basically lifting that low level moisture a little bit this afternoon, but not enough to really squeeze out very much. Overall, our first alert 7-day forecast, you can see that cooling continues on into Friday, and still looking for a wet day Friday with some significant rain headed our way. And then as we get into the weekend, it gradually dries out. We get back into sunshine and much more comfortable temperatures as we head into next week. Yesterday afternoon, we had very, very red sunsets around western Washington, and the cause of it was actually two different wildfires. We had the Bear Gulch wildfire that's been burning all summer long, still producing quite a bit of smoke. And you see that kind of trailing out towards Puget Sound. But this long plume came down off of Vancouver Island. The winds above about 5,000 to 6,000 feet were coming out of the north yesterday, pushed that down along the coast. And then we also had the Bear Gulch fire. So if you were in Puget Sound looking out towards that sunset last night, you were viewing the sun through a lot of wildfire smoke, and that turned it a pretty brilliant red in a lot of places. And this morning we had enough wildfire smoke around to actually have a red sunrise as well. You can take a look at the model there for the higher levels. This is roughly above about 5,000 to 6,000 feet. We put that in motion. You can see that trailing edge of that smoke plume going out from the Bear Gulch fire. It agrees exactly with what we're seeing in the satellite imagery today. You can see the clouds that we have along the coast, but you can also see that smoke plume extending out over into eastern Washington. But again, at higher elevations and really not impacting the air quality once you get away from the Bear Gulch fire itself. And you can see the low clouds associated with this slowly working their way inland, and that's what we're seeing around much of Puget Sound right now, is that the area of the low clouds pushing in, bringing in that much cooler air that's going to give us what should be a much more normal afternoon today, with those highs only in the mid to upper 70s. Again, not really affecting the air quality at the surface. This is right at the surface. We put the smoke model into motion there. Not really seeing it go very far away from the fire itself. The good news with that is air quality generally good. A couple of stations just barely slip into the moderate range this afternoon, but overall in pretty good shape. And as we head towards tomorrow, bring in more of that clean Pacific air, we're going to be looking for it to stay pretty much the same, with the air quality good, except for in a couple of places just dropping down into the moderate range. If you're headed up to do a little bit of hiking, well, you're going to be looking at some pretty nice weather up in the mountains today, and not as busy there at Paradise up on Mount Rainier as usual. Look for sunshine this afternoon, but take your rain gear. There could be a couple of showers late in the afternoon, but temperatures today, much better hiking weather with those highs mostly in the mid to upper 60s. Overall, in our extended forecast tomorrow, partly sunny, just a few afternoon sprinkles today. We're going to be seeing temperatures mostly in the mid to upper 70s. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy, some sun breaks. Look for a chance of showers increasing later in the day, and highs right around 70. A wet day Friday with rain at times, temperatures getting into the upper 60s, and we should get anywhere from maybe half an inch to an inch of rain out of that, which we definitely can use. Decreasing showers and clearing on Saturday, a couple showers left over Sunday. We start off back to work on Monday and Tuesday with sunshine and highs mostly in the mid 70s.
I know everyone in the Northwest is bummed it's coming on the weekend, but that is much needed rain. A little farther south, Portland is also bracing for the same summer storm. Meteorologist Rod Hill has a look at the rain on the way to Oregon.
From a non-hot, haven't said that in a while, Rose City, I'm meteorologist Rod Hill with our Portland update on this Wednesday. All heat alerts, warnings of any and all kinds for Oregon have been dropped, also up into southwest Washington. And basically today we're looking at, on average, about a 15-degree cool off for inland areas. It's still going to be warm down here. It's going to be an August sunny 84-degree day in Portland. But get this, Portland during our 3-day heat wave, this has really caught our attention. Hit 99 on Sunday, 99 on Monday, and 99 on Tuesday. That's so freakish, we're not sure if we ever done that before. Hit 99 for a high 3 days in a row. We did, and now today we're going to be back down about 84. Our next weather story right out here in the Pacific. Incoming front that could bring the first wave of rain with it to the Oregon coast tomorrow evening, and then a pretty good push of rain with the cold front Friday overnight. And I'll show you that on Futurecast coming up in just a minute. We are tracking low clouds along our beaches on this Wednesday. This is Chinook Winds Casino Resort in Lincoln City. Temperatures today will primarily be in the 60s in parts of the coast that stay cloudy. We think most of the Oregon coast could stay under the clouds today. Inland, though, it's gorgeous. Here's our Mount Hood Timberline Lodge camera. The lodge at 6,000 feet might just get up to 70 this afternoon. Still a warm batch of air, just back to normal as I mentioned. Been a beautiful sunny start to our day in Portland, and also looking at our state capitol with our live camera down in Salem. Okay, let's talk about the rain and the changes that are coming. So here's our Futurecast model. This is, let me roll it into this afternoon. And this is, if anything, a push of low marine clouds that instead of clearing today may intensify. And there could be clouds pushing much of western Washington down into Longview, Kelso, Castle Rock, so north of the Portland-Vancouver area. Otherwise, we'll be sunny today. We get some cloudiness, more widespread, tomorrow morning on Thursday. And tomorrow, it looks like we take the temperature down another notch because of that. And then here's tomorrow evening. First wave of rain potentially moving into the North Oregon coast, Tillamook and Astoria. This model likes some shower activity coming into Friday morning. Now, there are still some questions in terms of timing and amount with this rain. It's not a slam dunk that we get manageable rainfall into the Willamette Valley here Thursday overnight and Friday morning. It could make the case as a forecaster that we don't get any rain. So we'll see how that plays out. Most of the rain when we wake up Friday morning is still out here. Again, that front comes into our area. It looks like either Friday evening or Friday overnight with the main frontal band of heavier rain. So here's Friday 5 p.m. Now this model is the fast one. Here's the frontal band right here. That would be a rainy Friday evening for Portland. Other models, in fact more models than not, say, well, there's some showers Friday evening, but the main heavier rain band is Friday overnight, and then that would clear out early Saturday morning. And if you have plans Saturday afternoon, Saturday in August, you expect it to be dry, the scattered shower threat would be getting less and less, I would think. So maybe your Saturday afternoon plans, fingers crossed, are going to be okay, but it's too early to tell. Here's just a wider look at Futurecast, what I showed you. We haven't looked at rain in a while, so it's fun to see it come and go. There it is in green. Again, there's that big heavy front offshore on Friday that comes in either Friday evening or Friday overnight. Weather models still love good rain amounts, good grief. This shows 92 100ths in Lincoln City, an inch in Tillamook, 65 100ths in Portland. Certainly reasonable to say that we could be looking at amounts of rain between 1/4 and 1/2 of an inch over the 2 days. Again, we expect to have a much more fine-tuned forecast for you tomorrow. 84 today. We're enjoying the fact that the heat wave is over. 78 tomorrow, and then only about 70 with the clouds and the rain chances on Friday and Saturday. Right now, our Sunday looks to be dry, partly cloudy, 77, and we hold right around 80 degrees to start next week.
Put in the sun and Sunday. Thanks, Rod. That was a look at the West Coast weather, but up next, we'll have a check on the national picture. Welcome back. We focused in on the West Coast. Now let's take a look at the national forecast. Meteorologist Julie Martin has the latest.
Well, for this Wednesday, we will see a few storms in the northern plains. Some of those could turn severe. Also looking at extreme heat in northern Florida, southern Georgia. Feels like temperatures there are going to be in the triple digits, and that heat is finally breaking in the Pacific Northwest. Temperature-wise, looking pretty comfortable around the Great Lakes. We've got 80s here from Grand Rapids down over toward Des Moines and Minneapolis, looking pretty nice. Still staying hot in the Lone Star State over toward Mississippi. We've got those 90s in play. Portions of western Tennessee also going to be feeling the heat. And then that heat from Jacksonville, Florida, really all the way up the I-95 corridor into the mid-Atlantic. DC, you'll be at 90, Hartford at 90, Cleveland pretty comfortable though at 80. And as I mentioned, that heat here in the Pacific Northwest, where we've been so hot, is finally backing off. We're starting to get more onshore flow from the Pacific, and that's going to cool down those extreme temperatures. In red here, we have our fire danger, so that ongoing in the west. And then we have those heat advisories for northern Florida and portions of southern Georgia and South Carolina. Also some heat advisories here from portions of eastern Texas over toward Louisiana into Mississippi. And we could see some flooding actually take place in the Appalachians as well. For your Wednesday, looking at the severe weather threat, we've got a level 2 out of 5 here. So on the lower end of the spectrum, however, could see some isolated strong to severe storms with hail damaging winds being your primary threats there in the Dakotas. All right, off to the tropics we go. Still watching a couple of areas. We do have this area in yellow. Good news with this is not expected to form at all, a 0% chance of development. National Hurricane Center is giving this one near the Yucatan Peninsula about a 20% chance of developing once it reemerges here in the southern Gulf over the next couple of days. Then, way out to sea, we have Tropical Storm Erin. Now, Erin is still holding together and is expected to hold together as we approach the weekend. In general, the models are taking this north of Puerto Rico, and you notice there's a pretty good agreement there of that, and then curving it back out to the east. That is the hope. Now, if this gets a little bit further to the west, we could see some impacts along the east coast of the U.S., so we will have to keep you posted on that. All right, here we go. Temperatures in the west, we've got 90 in Sacramento, 110 in Phoenix, hot in Texas with those 90s. The southeast looking pretty good, although Atlanta, you'll be dealing with some storms as well as Charlotte. And in the northeast, pretty comfortable, but hot in the mid-Atlantic with 90.
Thanks, Julie. When we come back, a San Diego scientist is in a Netflix reality competition. We'll hear his message about protecting our oceans. Netflix is hoping to reel you in with a new series about sharks, and one of the stars is from the West Coast. We caught up with him in San Diego.
6 locations. Their mission? Find and photograph as many sharks as possible. Every shark caught on camera earns you points.
I'm a marine biologist, and so that's got to give us a competitive advantage.
All the Sharks, the latest Netflix series capturing incredible video of our oceans as teams compete for the most rarest shark encounters. But it only counts if they snap a photo. One of the stars of the show, Brendan Talwar, a postdoc at UC San Diego's Scripps Institution of Oceanography, when an email from a show producer changed his life.
When you got that email, were you like, absolutely, I'm in, or how was that? No,
Okay. No, not at all. You know, I think like many scientists, when we get an email like that, we're pretty reluctant to jump on board because like Chris and I don't want to be a part of a show that has the hook of fear. You know, because we see these animals as beautiful and important parts of healthy, thriving marine ecosystems.
Brendan and Chris Malinowski, his longtime college buddy from Florida State, joined forces dubbed Shark Docs.
Some of these species are really well camouflaged and you really have to work for them.
One of the most difficult took them 2 days, frantically searching under coral ledges. The elusive woebegone.
It's very cute. Its tail always curls at the end, and I saw that as I swam by and then came closer and was like, oh yeah, I found you.
Yeah, buddy, wishing success. Brendan has a fondness and deep respect for these creatures, and he hopes viewers feel the same.
Mike Clarkson, the producer who put this whole thing together, his whole thing is like the US audience doesn't watch something like Blue Planet, you know? But the US audience loves Desperate Housewives, okay? So how can you package science and conservation into this nice little box that's going to appeal to a broad audience that maybe otherwise wouldn't want to learn about sharks or rays?
They did just that with scoreboards and drama, as subtle conservation messages deepen people's knowledge of these threatened species.
Not to be a Debbie Downer here, but We've lost about half of all sharks on Earth in the last 50 or 60 years. We have to maximize time. About a third of shark species and an even higher percentage of ray species are considered threatened with extinction.
The series explains how sharks are not just predators, they're protectors.
It's wonderful to go to these places and demonstrate what healthy marine ecosystems can look like, but I really want to emphasize that that is not normal. And that's the same here locally. Like, this marine reserve off La Jolla is an exceptional place. These ecosystems are something to treasure and protect.
As for Brendan's biggest behind-the-scenes challenge,
we were bouncing between like summer in the northern hemisphere and winter in the southern hemisphere. We were freezing, you know, because you're diving and then you're out and then you're doing interviews, but you're constantly on the move, so you want to get back in the water, so then you snorkel, you miss lunch, you forget to eat, you know, and you're just shivering nonstop. So that was, that sounds kind of lame, but honestly, yeah, we were cold.
I can relate to, we're San Diegans. We don't want to be cold.
Now back home in San Diego, Brendan's newfound fame has him talking sharks with fans of all ages. For Earth 8 in La Jolla, I'm Netta Iranpour.
That does it for us here on Weather Out West. Thanks for being with us and have a great day.